Everybody ready? Come on, let's go.
The Rick Thorne Show! Let's go! The Rick Thorne Show! Let's go!
Yo, what is up? Yo, this is Rick Thorne. Welcome to the show. Woo! We're back. I'm glad you're here. Thanks a lot for subscribing. Thanks a lot for watching. This week, I got one of my good friends, an awesome dude, badass tattoo artist, Jojo Ackermann. What's up, dude?
Hey, Rick.
There
How
he
you
is.
doing, man?
Good. See, I didn't turn
Good
up
to
too
see
much.
you, dude.
I crack up on that intro,
You got
though.
to turn it up. I love when you do that.
Oh, thanks, dude. But the intro's funny to me.
Yeah, I like it.
It's just I can't get over the legend thing.
Yeah, but, you know, that's your modesty coming
I
through.
don't know. I just get like, I'm just.
I don't like, I mean, people say that stuff to older guys like myself all the time. And
They call you a legend, too?
Once in a while, it's been said to me, and I'm kind of like, not yet, you know.
Legend means you're dead,
Not
dude.
yet.
That means you're dead, though, doesn't it?
I mean, living legend doesn't.
That's true. We need to change that to living legend. I like that. Or myth.
Yeah.
Anyways, I always say the same thing at the beginning of every show. I think it's funny. What's up, dude? How you doing, bro?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm glad you came out.
Cool.
Last time we talked, I saw you at your shop,
Yeah.
10,000 Waves.
You came for the 10-year anniversary party.
And that 10 years, dude.
Yeah.
It's gone by that
It
quick.
went by fast.
That's crazy, right?
It's totally crazy because when we were having the party, I was like, I can't even believe we're already doing this. It just seemed like it wasn't 10 years.
Isn't that crazy, though? Like time in general. It just goes quicker the older we get.
The more occupied you are, the quicker it just seems to go. I feel like the older I get, time just seems to be going quicker now. It's
After
faster.
high school, it just was done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did high school seem like it took forever?
It did. And then summer vacations were like 3 months long.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like you got so much done. You did
Yeah.
so much stuff.
Yeah, like 4 years of your life, you're like, and my daughter just graduated. I'm like, that was quick.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you're like, this sucks. It's
so
taking
great.
forever.
Yeah. Totally.
So the shop, 10 years.
10 years.
And it's in Studio City,
Sherman
right?
Oaks.
Sherman Oaks.
Yeah. Well, we're right next to Studio City.
Yeah. So did you ever think that you'd have your own shop?
I always knew I would at one point. I always knew that. But it was just a matter of like finding the right situation.
What's that like in that area?
In Sherman Oaks?
Was that like your area that you wanted to be in?
It's kind of funny. I worked for the guy who taught me how to tattoo. I worked for Mike for a little over 16 years up in the high desert where I learned how to tattoo and where I was raised.
Yeah, we're going to talk about
and
that
then
too. Wait,
I,
Mike who?
Mike Pike.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And eventually when I decided it was just, I'm going to take what I know and kind of see what I can do with it. I was friends with Robert, who's my business partner in the shop, Robert Atkinson. And he was already kind of in the area. We had kind of, put our brains together. And we're like, hey, and he called me one day and he goes, you started in 92, right? And I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, me too. Let's do this together. And I was like, man, that sounds like a good idea. Actually, I never even thought about it like that. And he was like, yeah, let's, he goes, I'm already down here. I'll try and find something. And he just kept driving around after work at night and he would like send me photos of buildings and we'd text back and forth. Anyway, he found that spot. It belonged to a guy who had a business there that was his dad's business since 1939.
Wow.
It was a shoe store and shoe repair.
Wow.
And then that dude left it to his son, who was our landlord, which was Eddie. And at the time when we got our lease and everything, he was already pretty elderly. His son was a guy named Greg, and Greg was like a really well-known photographer, and he used to take pictures at like the Old Grey Whistle and at the Whiskey and the Roxy and stuff. And he had all these really cool photos like Rod Stewart and like Roxy Music and Tina Turner. And
Wow.
so you go into shoe repair after Eddie had retired and Greg was running the place and all his photos were on the walls. And it was just really cool. He gave me a really cool one of Annabella from the Bow Wow Wow.
Wow.
For Christmas one year. I have a really nice photo that he took. And
Well, the reason
he's our landlord now, and it's like we've just been there ever since. We have a good relationship there. We love the neighborhood, but we ended up getting it because he wanted more art in the neighborhood because he was a photographer.
Oh, cool.
His parents weren't going to rent to us, and he was like, "You got to let these guys in," and they let us in, and we've been there ever since.
Yeah, well, and that's awesome because the reason I ask you is because that area is legendary.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of history along Ventura Boulevard, and
For sure.
a lot of, all the way from Hollywood around to where does it end up at? Encino or down that area.
yeah, it goes all the way down like past Valley Circle.
All the way down there. Yeah, so there's like a lot of history there, which is I always thought was cool.
Sure.
Because I didn't grow up in California. You grew up in Lancaster.
Yeah,
right?
I was in the Lancaster area. Yeah, I was in the little town out west of Lancaster called Quartz Hill. I grew up there.
Oh yeah, okay, I know Quartz Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Midwest, so I always looked at California as like a place I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And always seeing this stuff with the valley, and so I always get excited when I hear even that story you're saying right now about like these photos and how old it was, and just what that time was like back then.
You know,
what I mean?
Quartz Hill and Lancaster is like that's the last of LA County before it goes into Kern County. So we were like at the very end there.
And you grew up riding bikes, didn't you?
I grew up riding bikes.
Did you BMX?
Yeah.
Yep.
So my first bike
Was that your first love, BMX?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played Little League. I played baseball and I loved it, but I ditched baseball as soon as I got on a BMX bike.
Sick.
It was over after that.
That's what happens, kids.
My first bike.
That's what happens. I'm telling you right now.
My dad, I guess, like the story goes, I had this really cool yellow Schwinn with a chrome chain guard with flames painted on it. My dad made the bike. He bought it all piece by piece and put it together a little bit here and there. And then for Christmas, that was my Christmas present. I got this bike. And I had that bike until I was probably I had it from when I was 5 until I was probably about 9 years old.
Awesome.
And I stripped the handlebars out jumping it.
Awesome.
Because I just had the little single gooseneck. And so my dad drilled a hole through the gooseneck and handlebars and bolted it in so it wouldn't strip. And
Old school.
And then we were just like building jumps out of boards in our front yard, and we would ride down, and just jump them. And
so how long did you ride for you're like, okay, I'm over this. I'm going to get into something else. Did you still ride in your teenage years?
Yeah, I still rode my bike until probably I was in my early years of high school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then I just kind of got into other things. I had my driver's license, and I was in a band, and, punk rock and friends, and driving down to LA to go to shows, and it just kind of got the bike got put on the side.
Yeah, once you get a car, you're kind of like
it changed everything at that time. Just things were different.
Yeah, for sure. But the BMX years were cool, and you met like a lot of dudes like Rich Bartlett. Did you remember?
Rich. I grew up with Rich and his family. Yeah, sure, I've known them.
Who was the other guy you said lived?
Gary Laurent.
Yeah, Gary, and then another. We're gonna talk Gary's.
Wayne
awesome.
Crosdale.
And those are another top pro.
They were like the dudes in town. They were like the three dudes we all looked up to. They were the best of the best in town. Like everybody wanted to be like those guys.
Yeah, I know Gary and Rich still ride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the other guy.
He owned a shop up there called Bicycle Radness that was in Palmdale.
Sick.
And there was a place in Palmdale that we all used to go meet up and ride behind this housing area where my cousin lived, called the U. And it was a dirt hill that would go down probably about 30, 40 feet and then shoot up about another 25, 30 feet, and they would put a board and a brick on it, and you would just launch into the air.
Board and a brick.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that.
And I think
forever.
BMX Action or somebody went over there and took photos one time of those guys jumping, and we all went and watched from the side, and just watched them all do crazy stuff on their bikes. And,
That's so sick.
And it was like the U, and then you'd hit this thing called the Baby V, and then the Ant Hill, and there was a whole track you could ride all the way down to the end of the street.
Best of times.
Yeah,
on
it was
bikes.
great. Yeah,
Dude. Yeah,
it was great.
Nowadays, kids have so many things to pick from.
Yeah,
Gary
Gary Laurent was my neighbor. He lived two
Gary's
houses away, and when he moved in, he had a BMX bike, and he got me and my brother into it. The yellow Schwinn went on the back burner. My first bike was a bike called a Stormer MXR. I had that bike, and that was my first BMX bike. Had Z rims,
So that's his after now. You're into it. You're learning how to jump.
Yeah, we're racing now. We're at the track.
Oh, so you race too?
Yeah. I raced BMX.
Full what? ABA? Is that what it was?
ABA. Yeah. My brother and I both raced, and Gary Laurent's parents owned the bike shop that was around the corner from where we lived, so we were there all the time. And his mom always was working in the bike shop, and his dad would be in the back assembling bikes or whatever. And yeah, it was awesome. It was a really cool time to be around. Gary had a quarter pipe in his backyard. Gary, I indirectly is the guy that got me into punk rock, because Gary would put his stereo speakers out his bedroom window. And I grew up, only knowing what I knew. I mean, I knew I already loved, this was like 1979, 1980. I was listening to Oingo Boingo and Devo.
Yeah.
And I loved that stuff, Wall of Voodoo. But then Gary was playing Adam and the Ants, and I had never heard that before.
You don't drink, you don't smoke.
And he would blast it, and he would ride his, and you would hear, whoop, 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 and I went out back one time, what's that noise? And he's going up a quarter pipe and coming down the quarter pipe and going up the quarter pipe, and he would just go to the end of the driveway, and he would do that all day long and just practice all day.
BMX was so new.
Yeah, and his dad built the ramp. They had built it in the backyard, so I'd go over there. I made quick friends with them. We'd just go over there, and the whole area where we lived in Quartz Hill. I mean, couple of guys we knew that lived, like 3-4 miles away would ride all the way over there just to ride the ramp, and then ride all the way back home, and mostly uphill and stuff. But it was like that's just how we got around back then.
So then he got you into punk rock through that.
Yeah, and then from
because
there,
Adam Ant was pretty punk. Back then.
For that time, that was considered punk. Like and
he was different.
And in Quartz Hill, where I grew up, like most everything back then was rock and roll or country music. So like that was totally punk rock.
So did you? I grew up in Missouri, so riding bikes at the same time. Did people give you a hard time for riding bikes out here, or was it kind of more of a? I always thought that California was more like open arms and accepting to like cutting edge things, or like as a kid, like that's where all the companies were. We're in California, all the sponsors, all the skate parks. We didn't have any of that in Missouri. So
right.
The stoners and the jocks always tried to bully us around, but we always got in these fights and would stand our ground.
That was pretty much the same story.
Same
here.
kind of thing.
It was the same, but
yeah.
I mean, with the bikes, we would all take we'd grab our shovels out of the garage, and we had a vacant lot like where Gary lived. There was another house, and then next to that house was a vacant lot, and we built a track in that lot.
Oh, sick.
So we had a tabletop and, a double jump, and we had all this stuff that we had built in there all by hand. The whole neighborhood would go over there, and we'd all dig them all out and make berms. And
see, that creates character. I tell people that now. Like DIY, doing your own thing, building your own stuff. It creates this thing about you.
Yeah, we would just go over there and ride all day long, and that was our thing,
Yeah, and the camaraderie with your friends. And
totally.
That's the best part. I miss that.
Yeah, and I still have relationships, like you say, you FaceTimed Gary that one day when we were together, and he knew who I was right off the bat. We haven't seen each other in like over 20 years, so.
That's crazy. I brought you guys together.
Yeah, it was cool to see him again,
bro.
and I'm glad he's doing well. I watch him on the internet. I see him still riding. He's still amazing.
Oh, yeah, he's cool. He's way cool. He's
and
doing
Rich still runs a bike shop up there in town, and
cool.
I just, I got my fit bike from him and stuff. So
let's go ride.
Yeah.
You ever go out and ride any?
Not too much anymore. I tore my meniscus and like my knees kind of jacked a little bit, so I've been having a little bit of a rehab situation with that.
Oh, that sucks, dude. The knees are the worst, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, is that right now? It's torn?
No, but it flares up every once in a while. I still have a little bit of a thing with it, but not all the time. It's getting better.
I don't even think I have ACLs at this point. I know for a fact I don't on this one. I just keep going. It's like
you do, man. You're
the Viking in
unstoppable.
me. Let's go.
Bro, when you came to the shop that one day and you had just got fresh stitches in your head the day before, and you're like, hey, I just want to stop by and say hi. I was like, dude.
It happens, bro. Some of us never learn, I tell you. So, but BMX creates character for sure. I was going to ask you, so riding kind of like, did you ever think it would be weird riding because of your hands? Like to ask you why you wouldn't go ride right now. Are you afraid of hurting your hands? Because tattoo artists, you don't want to.
No, not too much.
A lot of musicians always say that.
Yeah, not
like
too much.
I used to skate, but then I played bass, doing mess up the band, so I don't.
Yeah.
Skating's different, I guess, though. You put your hands down a lot more.
I think that the real fear of injury didn't come from riding or any of that stuff. It came from when I thought I was going to take jiu-jitsu and I tore my shoulder.
Oh.
And then I couldn't even lift my arm up.
Wait, so you tore it in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Dude, the guest that was on here last week, we were talking about how gnarly jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah.
It's a gnarly sport.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of energy out of you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things I just wanted to pursue it. I'd done martial arts before and other avenues, through like Kenpo karate and Shotokan and stuff like that, and I wanted to try jiu-jitsu. And
what happened?
So I'd been going there for probably about 6 months maybe at the time, and then some new kids came in, and I was like a bigger tattooed guy, and like this younger super muscular like teenager, like he wanted to beat me, and we were just practicing a move, and but he spun up on my shoulder and sat on my shoulder, and I heard it pop, and I was like, man. And ever since then, it was like whenever I put my arm straight in front of me or I went to grab something, it just felt like I felt this like sharp pain shoot through my body.
Oh, dude, that sucks.
So I had to go get it looked at, and what I had was a partial thickness rip in the rotator. So they didn't operate on it, but they gave me a cortisone shot, and that was about 10 years ago. It's still working pretty good.
Yeah.
Shoulder's still in good shape. It's occasional pain, but not too bad.
So that's what made you go, all right,
That's when I was like, this could jeopardize my career as the bread earner right now, and I don't want to put.
You got to lift your arms a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I need them. They're my money makers for sure.
Man, that's crazy. I don't see how you guys sit or how you sit for that many hours, because you do phenomenal tattoo work.
Thanks,
And you have your own style and you can see something, that it's your work. And like, I don't see how you guys sit there for that long and be like, and just be in the zone. I would fuck all these tattoos up, dude.
I do get in the zone, but I do stand up and take a lot of breaks, now that I'm aware of like, things that are better for my back and certain stretching and getting up against the wall and just doing stuff here and there that helps, you know, like
Yeah.
more preventative stuff. You get older and you learn it. When you're younger, you just balls to the wall. You don't care.
Yeah.
You know, and
because
then
you're like
start-
hunched over and shit too, sitting in your chair for like 3 hours.
Sure,
That's
maybe I
just
was
messed up your
tattooing in the
body.
90s, dude. I had a huge chain wallet, you know.
You did?
Full of crap in it, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting down on it and my ass cheeks are uneven and I go to a chiropractor and he's all, where is your wallet? And I pulled it out of my back pocket and he goes, don't wear it there ever again.
Oh yeah, because you're sitting on it.
And,
Yeah.
he told me all about it. And then, you know, that's like the first day of my adjustments. And ever since then, I meet people that have their wallet in their back pocket. I'm like, hey, don't do that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Put it in your front pocket.
Well, here's some advice, you know?
Yeah.
but
Plus, you won't get pickpocketed in the front.
that's true.
You know, unless
Unless
you're at a nightclub. That happened to me.
Or sleep.
That happened to me. This girl came up and started dancing to me years ago. I was single. I was having fun, just being, you know, out. And then I went to go, hey, where's my phone? I went back to her, hey, man, where's my phone? And then she said, I didn't take your phone. And I was like, you just took my phone. And then the next day, my mom calls me. I got to tell you a story real quick. My mom called me. She's like, hey, some guy says he has your phone and he wants to meet you at Popeye's Chicken. I was like, what? So I called this dude. And he's like, yeah, I got your phone. Meet me in Hawthorne. And so I went down there, and it was a scam they were doing. And he
Okay.
wanted me to pay to get my phone back.
Sure, yeah.
I said, dude, I don't even care about the phone. I just want my contacts. And then he realized who I was and says, oh, man, I saw you on TV. I'll give you the phone, but I want you in my next music video. This is a true story. So I was like, all right, I'll be in your music video. And then I took the phone. I never called the guy back. So put your wallet in the front, man.
Yeah.
And your phone and everything else.
Yeah,
They should
yeah,
make
yeah.
chain wallets for the front. Do they do that? Chain wallet in the front?
I don't know.
See,
If
I'm
they
coming
do,
up with stuff.
They might. They might.
Yeah.
They
So
might.
so tattooing, back
Yeah.
to tattooing. It's I don't know why I just told you that, but it's funny.
I
think
like
about
this
it.
story.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Yeah, but you gotta be careful in them clubs. Which I don't go to anymore. I don't want to be the old dude at a club. Tattooing, your style.
Okay.
Different people, like there's different types of tattooing style, obviously.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think people know.
Multiple styles.
There's multiple.
I mean, it's some.
Like, tell me something.
Even since I got into it I wouldn't say I got into tattooing in the 90s, but I would say I got into professional tattooing in the 90s. And just seeing what was available then and what's happening now, I feel like 100 years had gone by compared to what 5 years used to look like back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, or 5 years looks like 100 years or whatever.
What's the difference?
Vice versa. So back then, I think I came into tattooing in 92 as an apprentice tattooer at what would be considered the tail end of like what would be the tattoo renaissance, which was kind of spearheaded by, Cliff Raven and Ed Hardy and Don Nolan, which are these, iconic tattoo people that kind of courageously brought different styles of tattooing to the masses by bypassing the standard design and taking the idea of the standard design and elaborating on it with other images. So they were bringing bigger, more projected, more influenced style work from other cultures, some tribal stuff mixed with some Japanese art, some things like that. They were just really kind of trying to expand as art, and I saw all that and I was blown away by it. And it was automatically, I was attracted to that. And people were doing it, and I got to become a member of National Tattoo Association, so Mike would take me with him to these different conventions, and I would meet these old-timers, and I'd get to know them, and I would see these younger kids, like my age and younger, coming in with portfolios and with customers that they brought for the competitions with just mind-blowing stuff, and I was like, wow, look at the possibilities. I gotta get into this, because I was so excited about it, and I was already thinking about it in my mind. How do I accomplish this? Through all the books I was looking at the shop, looking at Tattoo Time from Ed Hardy and just even some more up-to-date tattoo magazines that were out at the time or whatever. And I just got engulfed in it quick. Like it just washed me out. I was like,
Yeah.
This is where I'm at and this is what's happening now. And that's all I focused on for forever. I just concentrated on that. And now, fast forward to now, I'm doing this 32 years now, and I'm looking on, the way things are, and man, it's just crazy what people are. I mean, I think a lot of people now are more like people with art degrees and stuff that are getting into tattooing. People that have like studied art or went to college for art or somehow had some kind of leg in the art world before they got into tattooing, and they're bringing their knowledge of what they've learned into tattooing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's also this other just things that I always see that kind of throw me off a little bit. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's really mind blowing. I mean, I know just because I was taught fundamentals, there's certain things I go, I don't think that's gonna work.
Yeah, no,
But
I'm gonna
there's
ask
things
you.
I think that are definitely going to work, but it's hard to say,
Yeah. Hold that thought, because I want to ask you something about you said earlier. What was tattooing like before you saw all the Ed Hardy and stuff? What was tattooing like back then? When I think of it, I think of like traditional flashes of like anchors and like kind of a traditional style of tattooing that was kind of
Sure.
across the board. Was it like kind of like that? Or?
Well, yeah, and I mean, tattooing to me when I was younger. So the first tattoo I ever saw was on my uncle, and he was a paratrooper.
Yeah.
And he had Green Beret paratrooper tattoos. He had skull with the parachute coming out of the head with the beret on.
Got
he
it.
had the buzzard with the blood dripping off the beak, and he had some tough tats. They were tough. And whenever me and my brother would go out in the back and we would make, fake rifles out of PVC pipe and we'd go play war out in the backyard, I would draw those tattoos on myself because I just thought those were badass.
Awesome.
And that was kind of the first tattoos I really saw. And then I met this guy named Fred, and he was dating my friend's mom. And we went to a pool party, and Fred had a whole bodysuit of tattoos.
Wait, how old was Fred?
Fred was like in his 60s.
Oh, okay.
I was probably 13,
Got it.
and I met this guy.
Oh, because the way that sounds like
And
I
my
met this
mind
guy
was-
Fred.
and my
He's
mind-
dating a mom. I was like, was he 12?
He was
too?
dating my
What's going
friend's mom. My friend Jessica's mom was dating this guy, and his whole body was tattooed with tattoos. It covered like these. You'd see these old black and white photos of these dudes with like just covered in traditional tattoos. This was that guy, and I was
Wow.
like, and I didn't know what to make of it at 13, but I was blown away by it, and I was so intrigued, and I just kept asking him questions, and he was really cool, just
Awesome.
the nicest guy. He told me everything I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Then time went by, and I ended up getting involved in tattooing indirectly through a good friend of mine. We had talked about getting tattooed because we were big fans of Agnostic Front and the Cro-Mags, and we had these magazines. You see Harley Flanagan playing bass, and he had this giant demon tattooed across his chest.
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
gonna get something like that. Super cool stuff, And my friend Kenny Schofield at the time, he had a 4th of July party at his house, and we all went over there and had the 4th of July party. And afterwards, we were in his bedroom, we were drawing, and his uncle came in and he goes, "Oh yeah," because we had a little thing of Pelican ink and some nibs, and we were just drawing with pen and ink. He goes, "You can do tattoos with this stuff," and we were like, "Oh really?" And he's like, "Yeah, watch this," and he took a safety pin and straightened it out.
Stick and poke.
Wrapped a thread around it, dipped it in, and poked it into Kenny's hand a couple times. He goes, "Hey, wipe it off," and it wouldn't come off. And that was it. We were off and running. Kenny had covered himself in tattoos. It was just, and I only had a couple, but I was hiding them,
Yeah.
And those were our first tattoos. And we went to school with our sleeves cut off our shirts, and we had some hand-poked tattoos on our upper arms. And I had stuck a safety pin through my ear, and we all got called into the office. And
Seeing you like that on a BMX bike.
just
would have
getting
been
busted,
awesome.
and you're already into it, And in Quartz Hill, it was super conservative. It was very.
You guys were the rebels.
Well, everyone at school was talking about it before lunch, so we had gotten called.
But
to
you
the
got into
office.
tattooing when tattooing was still kind of like, I'll say it in my Mike Ness voice, still dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like in the 90s, that was like still before TV wave came, and you never notice when things get on TV, people like accept them.
Right.
And I could say that from my own experience of being a bike rider. When we were kids riding, we were the same kids in the backyard riding around, but now we're on TV doing it, and then now people wanted your autograph. Those same people are now like, "Oh, I'll get an autograph for my grandkid." Like, but weren't you kicking us out? There's something magical people think about TV. If it's on TV, then it's okay.
Sure.
And that's what kind of happened with tattooing too.
It did, because it went
know?
from standing in line at the drugstore with a Coke and a candy bar with a lady grabbing her kid, kind of sheltering their child from looking at you, to the next thing they're turning around going, "Oh, you do tattoos? My nephew does tattoos." It's like a whole other thing now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
You know, there's no more fear.
Or you fly. I just recently flew into Canada, and I was thinking they're going to sweat me because of my tattoos. And every one of the TSA guys there had sleeves, neck tattoos. I was like, "Oh, this is different. This is weird." So there was a time where it was still kind of dangerous and considered like, "Oh, you got to be like a carny or an ex-con or like some type of prisoner of some sort or a gang member."
Yeah, and I had color tattoos. They were done professionally, and I on my arms that were visible, and this is also going back to like the early mid 90s. I'd get pulled over for speeding or an illegal U-turn or something, and they always want to know where I did my time at, or where.
Or they're like, "Hey, looks like you got a broken tail light here, buddy."
Yeah.
Break the tail light.
But I always got assumed that I was trouble.
Of course.
That would
Do you get that now?
No.
No one vibes you? I talked to Jeff about that. I was like, do people never vibe you? They never look at you
I
like...
I don't get vibed at all anymore. It's kind of, I mean...
Because you still have hair. Like, if you're like me and you got glasses, you look somewhat sophisticated, you know? Me, they mess with me. Everybody does. I feel like everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. Do I look crazy to you?
I mean, you know, don't we all?
Yeah, we all do. We all do.
If we're in a group, we're really crazy looking.
Let me ask you something. Do you think the tattooed people have something? Do you think it's different why people get tattooed now than they did back in the day?
Sure.
For different reasons?
A lot of different reasons, yeah.
What do you think?
Sure.
What would be your guess of why someone would get tattooed back in our day?
I mean, I felt like there was like a unification thing that happened with smaller groups of people back then through tattooing.
Yeah.
You know, you had different groups of people that got tattooed that got similar style of work, or hung out in different cliques, different groups of people that had similar styles of tattoos, and it was almost like an identity thing. Almost like definitely a rebellion thing, definitely not part of society, but definitely this. And it was all mainly involving subcultures or even military, you know, and stuff like that. They were hard-ass dudes that like went to the military before, you know, they've
been through some shit.
They were going through it, you know,
yeah.
and you know, tattooing was also a lot of guys I would tattoo on later on. I would learn that a lot of these guys were getting tattooed after they completed boot camp or they completed something. It was like
something tough or something rewarding.
It was like a milestone for them to
Yeah.
get these tattoos, and that meant they would put another chapter in their book, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I knew a lot of bikers that had, you know, similar tattoos. A lot of gangster dudes had similar tattoos. My friends, we were all like, you know, into punk and stuff. We all had similar tattoos.
What about people? What do you think about kids? I see kids now that get their first tattoo on their face, and I always thought that was like something you worked up to. That like it was something that you kind of earned. But like, then again, it's your body. You can do whatever you want with it.
And a lot of people, you know, back when I was getting tattooed, their first tattoo was like on their arm. But then we would cut the sleeve off your shirt and show it to people anyway.
Yeah. So it would be, you would have it under.
That was pretty rebellious.
I'm not going underneath my sleeve, but you cut it off and be like, choke it.
But I feel like, you know, society is so numb to anything that's scary anymore with the internet and television and all the shows you can watch now with streaming and everything. It's like, you know, they don't edit anything for television anymore and stuff. And it's like everything, you know, it's got to be because they're striving for some kind of reaction or some kind of like shock value or some kind of like, this is what I'm about and I'm going to put it down like this.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it. I don't have to, but I also want to, you know, sometimes I talk to them and it's like, they're making some kind of like ultimate statement of some sort, you know?
Yeah.
I think it falls flat, but if that's your way of doing it.
You say it lacks maybe substance. I know when I got tattooed a lot, and I'll just be real about it, as from a shameful kind of like disposition. I felt like I'm always just trying to cover up my body. There's something psychological with me that I know that I have that's why I was asking, because if that's like when people are fully heavily tattooed, is it like, are they experiencing the same thing that I am? In other words, like just going through my life and what I lived and how I feel about myself, and then me putting my accomplishments down to remind myself, or words on my body to remind myself to stay on the right path. That's what my whole trip is. So I think everybody's trip is different.
It is.
Nowadays, maybe what we're trying to say is like people, the art changed, because I talk about that too. And it's just some people like, you got this sick portrait, but like there's no, is it all going to bleed together eventually? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, there's no, and tattooing, don't you do like a border in a sense and then fill it in?
I mean, yeah, but now
is that old school way of doing it? I feel
like the rules are just,
they're just wide open.
You know, I tend to stick to what I was taught.
Got it.
So the type of tattooing I offer people would be like if you went to a restaurant and there was a chef working there and you know that this is the kind of food that he makes. This is what you're going to get. Yeah. So somebody would never come to me and ask me for that tattoo. You know what I mean? Because that's definitely not my forte. And I definitely make it known on my social media that this is what you're going to get when you come to me.
This is my style.
Yeah.
Which
I try to push.
I hate to ask this because it's like asking someone their band.
Right.
Like, hey man, what's your band sound like? Oh, I sound like Pink Floyd. I don't want to be Pink Floyd. I want to be me.
Yeah.
Right. So what would you say if someone was like, hey, Jojo, I want to get tattooed by you. What kind of style, what kind of tattoos you do?
I would say if I had to say what my style was, I would say it's definitely a mix between East meets West. I do have a strong American process to the way I design my work and the way I tattoo it, and I also have like a strong Eastern influence on what I draw. So I try to mix those things together, and I also try to keep punk rock involved in my tattooing.
Got it.
So, you know, there's lots of skulls and stuff like that.
And dragons.
Things
I
enjoy
like
to
that.
draw, things I enjoy. And then I know if you're going to get something like that from me, I'm going to be able to do the best version of that I can do for you.
Got it.
So I'm not tripping over myself, you know?
Uh-huh. What would you say to someone that's like, hey, I want to get tattooed by you? Have you had people say, oh, draw this up for me, and then they bail out?
Recently, I had a situation like that. You know,
So you're wasting your time. You got to get a deposit or something.
Well, I
right?
had a deposit.
Yeah, okay.
And the guy still just kind of backed out. I think he had second guessed what he wanted. But now the guy's back getting the sleeve done. I just redrew it again for him, and he gave me another deposit. We shook hands on it. I mean, it was one of the more amicable situations. And there's so many different variations. It's a case-by-case thing, you know. Every single person does it different. I mean,
right.
Every person I meet is unique. So it's like I have to kind of work with them on a personal level to get the job done.
Yeah, but you do some like full, like you got to check out his site, you guys, and his work. You do like these full like body. Like how long does that take to do like someone's full, like, I mean, you go like from the ankle all the way up to the back of the neck. Like it's crazy. Like,
yeah, thanks.
How long does that, and it's beautiful. Like
it's taken me 32 years to do all those.
so let me ask you, if I come in there and I say, hey man, I want to get like this big dragon on my back, and this is a theme I got, and you're the guy, I know you could do it. And I want to get something that goes from my back all the way to my, and you do my butt cheeks. How long would that take? Exactly, right? Depends on that silly question.
It's a case-by-case situation because some people can only get tattooed for a couple hours, and then I have guys that want to, you know, that when I'm done, they're like, I can go longer. So, you know, I got these dudes who are you know, and girls.
I mean, 8 hour kind of thing?
I've had some girls that are tougher than most of the guys I tattoo.
Well, girls have a high pain
and
tolerance.
they are just,
yeah.
And they come in and get their whole back outlined in one day, and then they come back and get like majority of the shading done. They're just into it, you know.
What's the longest you've tattooed?
On one person?
Yeah, and it's not in the days and like in a session. Like, all right.
Okay, so I did a guy back in 96. I did a back piece on a guy, and I did an 8-hour session on him.
Dude.
And I had never done that before.
How do you tattoo 8 hours?
He sat there and took it.
No, you. Your hand
oh, me? No, I did not. I swore I would never do it again.
Whoa.
My thumb went numb and fell asleep on me while I was doing it. And I felt obligated. I was still young at the time. And I felt like, I have to get this done. And I felt obligated. And, you know, later I realized I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So now I just, you know, I say, hey, man, let's not do that. Let's do it to where I don't give you some excuse not to come back.
Yeah.
You're going to go home with an 8-hour tattoo on your back, and you're going to regret that.
You're gonna be
by tomorrow morning, you're going to be hating my guts.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. So, like, let's just do it like this. You're going to, you know, I'm going to do it this way, and you're going to look forward to the next visit.
So, like a few hours or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I saw this, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, because obviously if you get a back piece, you got the different things. It's going to take different time. It's hard to say it's going to be this long, depending on what you want. You want black and white, you want color, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
What do you think about, I saw this guy, I think this shit's poserish personally. People getting knocked out to get like multiple tattoo artists.
Oh man, don't get me started on that.
Come on,
dude.
bro.
You want to hear it?
It's part of like the whole process and the experience of getting tattooed.
Right.
So you just want to be like cool guy.
So
have four guys work on me while I'm knocked out.
That's the difference between getting tattooed and having tattoos.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody can go buy a shirt.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if you want to just go buy an expensive shirt, that's what you're doing when you get knocked out. I mean, I've met a lot of people over the years that I have had a great conversation with through tattooing, getting tattooed. I learned a lot about tattooing through those people. I became part of tattooing through those avenues. Can you imagine going and sitting down for 3 or 4 hours with a person and not speaking to them the whole time and missing out on that whole experience? It's like, if you cared, it's like people just want the tattoo, they knock themselves out and wake up with it. It's, I don't know.
Do you think they just want the show to like, look how tough I am? You know, if
They're
you don't
not
get
tough,
that rep,
but you're not tough.
I know, but people, you're badass. You got those tattoos and stuff.
If you don't do the blood ritual, man, and just like have the conversation and hear the music and do the tattoo thing, I just don't respect it. And
Me neither.
That's my
I
own
think
opinion, dude. And I know other people can disagree with me all they want, but it's like it's stolen valor, dude. There's people that have got their whole bodies tattooed without even using any numbing cream. So it's like it's fine with the numbing cream, whatever, you know, that's your thing or whatever. It's but the anesthesia thing. This straight driving the puss bus. Yeah. I'm not into it at all.
Yeah, dude.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Hey, I want to be knocked down, and I want everyone here to tattoo me and do a whole back piece in one day. Can you do that? You'd be like, peace. Nah, we're not interested.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that are going to do it, and there's people that are going to want to get it, and there's people with a bunch of money that are down for it. Those aren't my customers anyway.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was just like, this dude's weak, bro. Like,
My
this is
people are
whack.
more blue collar and more into getting tattooed and then getting the experience. They love coming into the shop. They love our banter. They love the ball breaking that goes on in there. They love all that.
Dude, I have always loved it. I loved it when I remember I got tattooed in Kansas City for the first time. It was 89, I think. 88. I was 88. I was 18. And I always liked it. Tattoo shops were way different back then.
Sure.
I mean, they were like tattoos. Nowadays, you got standards and things. Like I said, I always say TV. As TV brought the attention, then you have these codes and these standards for the shops, which are great. But I always remember, even going into your shop, I love your shop. Your shop feels like it's a tattoo shop still. And I don't mean that in disrespect for other people's shops. Some shops feel like they're so Art Deco and so kind of like they're progressive and they're nice, but it doesn't remind me of like a traditional feeling tattoo shop.
Yeah.
But I'm also from, and we talked about that earlier briefly. I want to get into about history.
Yeah.
The history, even of tattoo shops, have changed.
You know, the shop I started going to when I was a kid was Mike Pike's dad's shop, and it was in Palmdale on Sierra Highway. And I'd go there, and there'd be a line of motorcycles parked in front of it, or there'd be like, you know, some crazy muscle cars or something.
It was fun.
And you'd go in there, and they'd be blasting like Molly Hatchet or Motorhead or something, and dudes were smoking, and it was loud, and there would be a lot of fun going on in there, like fun stuff. I mean, I was a teenager at the time. I'd go in there 16, 17 years old.
It's exciting.
I'd just be like, man, this is amazing, you know? And it smelled like green soap, and you could hear the tattoo machines, and that's just how I identify with tattooing.
Yeah.
You know? And to me, that's just what has given me, like, my love and passion for tattooing were those experiences. Yeah. You know, although, you know, not every day is like that anymore, but I still carry that through, you know, like I said, like I'm still tattooing with coil machines. I still use green soap. I still love a lot of things that still permeate like my process that come from that era that I'm just never going to get rid of.
Do you think you're like one of the last, not you personally, but like the generation of tattoo artists that came at that time, or the kind of like the last breed to feel that way? Because, you know, these new kids come in and they see, because I see some of these tattoo shops, they look like vape shops to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get confused. Is this a vape shop or is this a tattoo shop?
Yeah.
But you know, we talk about people don't know history.
There's so many shops now. It's
They
like you
should.
can't even keep track of it anymore. It's almost like there's a studio. And a long time ago, this old tattooer told me, he goes, well, there's an audience for everything. Even when, you know, because, you know, this guy came in the shop with like a horrible tattoo on his arm, but he liked it. And, and I go, oh, man, that's a bad one. And he goes, you know what? There's an audience for everything. And I thought, man, that's crazy. But he was right.
That's kind of a cool concept.
He just lets it roll off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You do a lot of cover-ups?
Yeah, I'd say I've done a lot. A lot of the big tattoos have a cover-up involved in them these days. I mean,
yeah.
A lot of people know now that they can get these larger pieces and that this other tattoo's just been in their way the whole time. And sometimes I just tell them, I'll just blast over that thing and it'd be gone.
Yeah.
And get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, really? And then sometimes people want to just get a tattoo over the top of another tattoo just to do it, and they don't care if it covers it up or not. It's just really weird now. You know, it's like I'm just trying my best to do the best version of it I can do.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's with all the different flavors and all the different information and all the influence on the public. You know, like before, people who wouldn't go into a tattoo shop wouldn't go into a tattoo shop.
No,
and
not
now
at all.
a tattoo shop comes into their living room at night on the television set.
Exactly.
They lose that fear of going into a tattoo shop, and now they start approaching places, and
that's why they started to look nicer and more.
and there's just more of a mainstream vibe to it now. You know, with most shops and even with conventions and stuff.
How do you feel about that? You think it's better, or do you like it better in the grimier days? Grimier days, Matt, you weren't making as much money neither.
I'm proud that I came from the era that I came from.
Yeah.
I can say it that way.
Yeah.
And I do hold a lot of things close to my chest that I did learn and still have with me from that era. But I am growing, and I am trying to get better all the time, and I am trying to open my mind up to other things. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm still going to disagree with a lot of people on a lot of things.
Good.
And I'm still going to have my core values. But I am going to look at things with a little bit more of an open mind and say, well, if that's a possibility, then I guess that's right for that person. But I don't necessarily have to like it.
And that's life. You know, about even outside of tattooing. That's just like in general. You know, and we talked about, and I respect that. We talked about history, and real quick, and BMX. Let's just say BMX history. These kids don't know these old dudes.
No.
they don't know like Bob Harrow and like, I mean, they may know Bob Harrow, but like
Harry
or
Larry,
Eddie Field,
Greg Hill.
This people do, but like a lot of kids, they don't, and they're living in the now,
Sure.
in the now. They don't care about, they don't want to be living in the past. But I was always intrigued by the past because, like I get, you know, because it motivated me to be like, whoa, I get excited by it. Do you feel that way in tattooing? Are people getting involved with tattooing that like don't really know the history? They just want to come in and make a buck and make a name for themselves, that kind of thing. And they don't really care about the history of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, like with people that are artists or they're artists, and they have a support group of people that are like, yeah, you're great, yeah, you're awesome, and they have this people lifting them up. I think that this can be damaging in a way with like it creates a Godzilla kind of ego with people, and I think that it turns into it's like a main character syndrome situation where it's like, well, it's just what I like to do. It's what I'm into. It's
you mean with yes people?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter.
Like
it doesn't matter about history. and I always compare it to things like BMX or car racing or the Dodgers. You know, it's like, do you think that the people playing on the Dodgers don't know? Like the guy pitching for the Dodgers, right? Do you think he doesn't know who Fernando Valenzuela was?
Yeah.
Do you know? Or Steve Garvey on first base. Do you think the first baseman doesn't know who that was? Or the guy racing, he doesn't know who Dale Earnhardt was?
It's weird.
And BMX dudes, you know, you don't know who Kelly and Beetle Rosecrans were. You know, it's like you don't know these people.
Or who
like,
made up what trick, too. That's even a crazier
one. That's the thing,
one.
right?
Yeah.
Who invented the trick and who
invented toe whips? People are like, I don't know. These two kids, I don't know.
But
like,
with tattooing, you mentioned to a younger person, oh, yeah, man, that's Rick Walters. And they're like, who? Rick Walters. Oh, that's Good Time Charlie. Oh, is he from a long time ago? He's still a living legend, dude. You can talk to him today.
Yeah.
You can go and buy a tattoo or his merchandise from him. He's still around.
And those guys that tattoo old school, because he's old school, he still tattoos the same way.
Yeah, man. And he's the nicest guy you
And
ever
that's
meet.
what you know you're going to get when you go to see him.
Sure.
Right? Like you were saying, you know what you're going to get when you come see. It's like playing music. You know what you're going to get when you listen to the song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But those old school guys.
The generation I come from with you know, punk rock and stuff, you had to know because like some guy from another band would start another band and you knew what band he came from before that.
Yeah.
And there was always this family tree or pedigree of like musicians that went with punk rock, and tattooing is very similar in that way where you have, you know, you have like the head of house, like, and then these three guys learned from this guy, and then those guys went on their own and did their thing, and this person's like a disciple of this person, and it held weight. It carried water, man. It's like, and I think for a guy like me, it still does.
Yeah.
I mean, and I meet younger people but I have met some younger people recently that do care, and they do come over to the shop, and they're very respectful, and they talk about stuff like that, and they're genuinely interested. And you know, my hat's off to those guys and girls who are young and do care about that kind of thing because it's important. You can't. I mean, are you going to just sit down and just like throw down tats and like not know?
Yeah.
Who was the first person to do this kind of style, or where did this style come from? Who pioneered this look? Like, you don't know that? It's really weird that you don't know that, but you're claiming that that's like your number one meal ticket tattoo.
That you're the bomb.
Yeah.
Like I'm the shit. Look at me. Look at my work. It's like show some. Yeah, you got to learn. But you know, apprenticing too is important, right? Like who you're apprentice with, right?
I think
that's a badge of honor right there, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so without being negative.
You could be.
That's
whatever you
another
want.
thing that happened in the early 2000s with the TV show phenomenon that took off was like all of a sudden all these people wanted to have apprentices because they had an apprentice on the show and there was an interaction there and they were like, oh, that's so cool. Now all these tattooers that like left where they were working before, this was a constant repeat thing that I would hear all the time. Oh, the guy I learned from was really mean to me, and you know he didn't let me have my way, so I left and I opened down the street from him, and then I got 6 apprentices, and they all paid me money to teach them, and then I turned them loose on the world, and it's like, you know, a lot of people got brought in a really bad way.
Oh, so they turned it into kind of like this cash grab.
So they watered down the Kool-Aid quite a bit back in that.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
So it was like, you know, I got free labor out of them. They cleaned my shop and my tubes, and then I ended up, you know, and I'd hear these stories, you know, and I'm like, that's just like wiping your ass with tattooing as far as like what you're really supposed to be doing. The way I was taught. That's not the way you're supposed to do it. Got it. So, I mean, maybe I'm missing something there, but I was taught that's not how it goes. So I stood by what I believed in. I learned that you got in through getting tattooed, and you got in by getting to know us and having tattoos. You had to be part of the crew, man. You couldn't come in and learn how to tattoo without having any tattoos. You couldn't just walk in and go, I want to learn how to do this. Cool, sit down. How much money you got?
That's what it turned into.
Yeah, I mean, I had a kid come in one time, you know, and he didn't even have any artwork, and his mom was trying to ask us to apprentice our kid, and I go, well, that's cool. Like, so normally you and I just gave him the bottom of the barrel outline. I'm like, well, you're gonna clean the bathroom, and you got to get coffee. And I don't know what cleaning the bathroom has to do with teaching me how to tattoo. And I go, and that's why you're not gonna learn.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
People that are above mopping the floor or cleaning their own bathroom are the people that don't care about who came before them.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
just
in my opinion, they're all kind of sewn to the same fabric. You know, they're all sewn to the same quilt. People that have owned their place or run their place or don't have a problem with taking out the trash or whatever, these are all people that learned from somebody that taught them how to respect where they sit and make their money.
Exactly. Yeah. And also too the shop and the fact of becoming a tattoo artist. So you've had people come in with no tattoos saying, I'm going to be a tattoo artist.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild.
There's people tattooing
That's pretty weird.
without tattoos on the internet that are like defending their right to not have tattoos and do tattooing. And I mean, again,
It's weird.
I'm going to disagree.
I wouldn't even be tattooed by someone.
I'm going to disagree with that. Some
Yeah.
people think it's so cool. He doesn't even have tattoos, but he did like all my tattoos. It's like, this guy's tattooing.
my face, my
this guy
first
doesn't
tattoo
even
on
know
my
what
face.
a tattoo feels like.
Yeah.
And he's out there making a money off of it, you know. And
I
I'm
got
sorry,
this
dude.
face tattoo by this guy that has no tattoos.
Well, you know the old saying, never trust a skinny chef, right? So
I never heard that before.
it's an old saying I heard a long
What
time
does
ago.
that mean?
It means a skinny chef probably doesn't eat much food. So he doesn't know what it tastes like, so why would you eat it?
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just an old saying, but I mean, it kind
I
of goes.
thought it would be skinny chef would be he's going to give us triple portion because he's starving his ass.
Yeah.
He's giving me all his food.
Yeah. Well, a person with no tattoos doesn't know what they feel like. So administering a tattoo to somebody without a tattoo, I just feel like is another way of just, I don't know, just making money off something you're not really part of.
Yeah, and that's pretty much like what happens when things do go mainstream.
Corporate,
But-
it's corporate mentality. And
But you're holding on to the roots of it.
Yeah.
And your shop is, and the vibe of your work and the vibe of your shop, it still has that.
We go for the roots, they go for the fruits.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fruit comes from our roots. We have plenty of fruit. We're picking it all day long. We're well established.
Yeah.
People like that are just kind of trying to do the internet flashy thing where they're like they might have a couple of things that catch some people's attention and get them. But I mean,
People need to do their homework, though, don't you think? If you're going to go get tattooed by somebody, you got to do many people even do their homework? They just come in and go, I want this.
I think
some people
as a
probably do, don't they?
tattooer and a lot of other tattooers, I look inward. I go, okay, what am I going to? This is something I've never done before. Let me research this a little bit, or let me learn something. I learn a lot from tattooing with other people. They'll bring me something. I like this, and I want to do this, and I'll learn something about another culture or another style of art. Oh, I'll learn something from it. I'll take something from it for myself for sure.
Yeah.
Other than, just being a physical translator of the image, I'm going to learn something mentally that I can carry along.
Yeah.
And just have, because I don't know, my general interest in it for sure. And just the fact that somebody wants to wear it and want me to do it on them. I don't want to tattoo something on somebody I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So I also kind of go into that avenue with it,
Yeah. You probably build a lot of good relationships and friendships through tattooing.
Tattooing on my level is all about relationships at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like the relationship you establish with the person that you're working with is, my wife and I talk about it, and I talk about it at work, and Robert also relates to this, but I'm tattooing third generations of certain families that I've been with since the beginning.
Oh, wow.
When I was 22, when I started, I was tattooing like the older guys that would come in the shop, so I'd end up with the dad, and the kid wasn't 18 yet, and then the kid turned 18, and the dad brought the kid to me, and I would tattoo the kid. Well, now that kid has a kid, and that kid's 18, and here I am 30 years later, I've tattooed the grandfather, the father, and the grandson.
And you're going to tattoo that dude's kid.
So all three of them have gotten tattooed by me now.
Wow.
And I've done it.
You got to get a photo with
and
them
I
all
have
with
a
the
fistful of families like that from where I come from. That's how it started, and that's still how it's going.
Pretty loyal.
I mean, it's an incredible feeling to know that that's kind of the situation that's been created out of just trying to do the right thing with tattooing and treating people with respect and kindness, but also, not piddle farting around with it.
Yeah.
Doing the job.
Yeah.
Getting it done.
Yeah, well, getting tattooed, I always was like, I remember I went to get a tattoo once from in Kansas City, and I just didn't like the dude's vibe. I don't know, I just didn't, and I was like, I don't want this guy to do my tattoo, because I always thought like the vibe was everything.
Yeah.
Like you're putting a tattoo on me, your vibe, and the artist's vibe has got to be. I got to click with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this is just going to be. I'm going to look at that tattoo and always be like, "Oh, that dude did that shit." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Because they ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know? So the
Can
vibe.
you imagine having a bad experience and then having to look at that all the time?
Well, that's what the reason is. As I say that's probably why Grandpa brought his son, brought his grandson, blah blah blah, is because the vibe. You got a good vibe down there.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important. You care
Yeah.
about what you're doing. And
Yeah,
I love to see that in this day and age because I'm sure a lot of people do care about what they're doing. I'm not saying a lot of people don't. I like to say a positive vibe.
There
But I
is.
think a lot of people don't really care and they're just trying to get in where they think they fit in, right?
Well, the one bad apple is going to ruin the whole bushel saying kind of applies to that.
Yeah.
The one who did it the worst is going to get a lot of attention on it.
Yeah.
And the people that are doing it right, it just becomes static in a way because it's now we're in a point in time where I feel like if you pulled your phone out and you went on Instagram and you were following a handful of tattooers or you just hashtagged tattoo or whatever, you're going to have a brand new tattoo magazine's worth of photos pop up every 15 to 20 seconds. And you're going to be overstimulated and you're not going to know what the hell you're looking at after a year of looking at that because it's going to just be so insane. So taking a break from that is pretty healthy. Stepping away from it a little bit is healthy, no matter what you're into, by the way. I mean, I'm sure it's the same with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But watching a lot of subcultures kind of go down that road, like being part of punk rock and being part of BMX and being part of tattooing and stuff, seeing all these possibilities get magnified worldwide 1,000 times through your TV or your phone screen.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really just, I mean, it's helpful in a lot of ways, but it's super toxic to yourself. It's like, you gotta be careful, man. Take it in doses, because if you spend all day just scrolling tattoos on your phone, you're either gonna be in for some serious, for me, it was like, I got to a point where I'm like, do I suck? You know what I mean? Because I'm seeing all this phenomenal work and I'm comparing myself now.
Yeah, comparing's a bad thing.
And when you start comparing,
well, it isn't bad though. Comparing to not compare, but sometimes I go, and I get motivated off of something.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of motivation involved in it.
I was talking to my son about football with that. It's like, don't compare. Look at someone, be happy for someone,
Right.
be like, that's what you want. Then you don't make an excuse to whatever. But you're good. Everybody's story is different.
Sure.
But it's easy. That could happen, especially when you're by yourself.
Well, and as a
you look at your phone, you sort of go, "Damn, I must suck. This guy's look at this portrait."
If you have a creative mind, you can go real dark real quick.
Yeah.
Because
I've done it.
How worse can that case scenario get? Let's imagine the worst.
Yeah.
Or how good could it get? Well, I'm trying to get there. The creative mind is also deceptive. So you have to be careful with that too.
Yeah, I make up crazy scenarios.
I do the same thing, dude.
If I come out the bathroom and this guy's there, and I thought this today. I was getting a coffee at this gas station, and it's right by the register. And I look over, and the guy's counting money. And he's counting money out. I was like, wow, what if someone came in and tried to rob that guy? Oh, you know what I would do? I would take this hot coffee, and I would throw it right in his face. What if he had a gun? I'd wrestle him down, get that gun, unload it. I think
you Jeff Spicoli him, dude.
That goes on in my head all the time. It's like this. I think I've watched too many action films with Gene Hackman or some shit, or Denzel Washington. I think I'm going to stop save the day or something.
You saw Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Yeah.
Where Brad's working at 7-Eleven and Spicoli comes in and he throws the coffee in his face. That's a great movie.
See, that's back in the day when I was dreaming about California. I wish I could be there. I was a little kid riding quarter pipes in the backyard, and you lived it. Sick. Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Yeah, you're doing. You're right there, you're right there in the heart of the valley, which is sweet. That spot's. I used to live down there.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. And
we had growing up playing outside.
Yeah.
Getting
that's
dirty.
it right there.
Growing up playing outside.
I'm thankful both of my kids do sports, and they love the outdoors.
Yeah.
They're not just stuck on these things or whatever. But
sure.
But the shop, 10,000 Waves tattoo. Anyone? I think we're kind of coming near the end.
Yeah.
I want people to know about where you can go get tattooed. You get tattooed by Jojo. Hello. I want to bring, I love your work. I love who you are as a person. I want to help any way promote you. So is there a way you could tell the kids or anyone watching right now where they could find you and the shop?
Yeah. You can see me on my website at ackermanart.com. That's Ackerman with 2 N's at the end. And, but I'm at 10,000 Waves Tattoo. We are in Sherman Oaks, which is right by Studio City. We're right there off of Ventura Boulevard and Woodman. We're open most days, noonish to 8ish.
There you go.
And yeah, we have a really great crew there. People that can do a lot of versatility in the shop. People can do whatever. Come see what we've built there. We've built a shrine to tattooing that we're really proud of, and things that are also from our era and things that are from more contemporary artists. But we have a lot of really cool stuff hanging on the walls. We're really proud to own a lot of the original artwork from the artists that we respect, and we definitely try to keep it real over there. So come check it out.
Yo, come check out the shop and get tattooed. All right, but make sure that you're old enough to know that you don't want like a Justin Bieber tattoo. All right, you got to think this through.
There's a portrait of Justin Bieber.
Wait, there's an age limit to this too, right? You got to be like a certain age.
So in California, you got to be 18 or older.
18 or older.
And you have to have an ID.
Got it.
That's just the rules.
That's the rules. That's the rules.
Rule
yes.
number 1.
So don't be showing up at 15 wanting like a Tupac tattoo or something because you're not gonna get it there.
You got to do it like I did and just do it at your house with your friend.
And yeah, or
I'm
just,
not advocating that.
Or just think about it. Think about it and be like, all right, at 15, I wanted it. Because if I would have got a tattoo at 15, it actually would have been good to get. It would have probably been like a Judas Priest tattoo, which would be pretty sick. I need to get that Screaming Prevention's eagle.
That's awesome,
You
man.
could probably do that good. Right? That eagle?
It'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's do it. Hey, thanks a lot for watching. Get tattooed by Jojo. Check out his shop. And subscribe. Thanks a lot once again for watching. And stay rad. Peace out.
Thanks.
Everybody ready? Come on, let's go.
The Rick Thorne Show!